Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today. We want to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna, Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gonita, Shri Prabhupada, and the assembled devotees. So we today wanted to cover the historical context of the Bhagavad Gita. In what circumstances was the Lord, why he sang the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And this is all part of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is an important scripture. It's one of the itihasis. Itihas means historical scripture, history. Composed by the sage Vyasadeva, and he's also the literal incarnation of the Lord. It's an epic composed of 110,000 verses, which makes it the longest poem in the world. So it's a huge, huge scripture. Bhagavad Gita appears as an episode in the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is considered smriti, that which is remembered. However, the Bhagavad Gita is considered shruti. So also smriti can change according to time and circumstance. But shruti cannot change. And shruti is a little bit more, has more weight in scriptural terms, as they are directly the words of the Supreme Lord, and the rules and regulations contained therein are eternal principles. They can't be changed. Smriti can change according to time and circumstance. The name Mahabharat means, Maha means great, and Bharat means history of the Bharatas. So it's actually named after a king called King Bharat, who was an early ancestor of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, who fought each other in a great war. But this word Bharat is also generically used for the Indian race. We try not to use India, because actually the name for that land is Bharat. India is something given by the sort of colonial rulers, British. So the Mahabharata sometimes is referred to as the great history of India. But we don't like to say India, as I said, as this is a foreign name. Bharat is the traditional spiritual name of that country. And this King Bharat, he was very unique because he did not appoint his sons as the kings because they were not qualified, but he appointed another person who was qualified. So that broke with tradition. And that was an important thing to do at that time. After many generations, King Shantanu became the king of Hastinapur. So King Shantanu was married to the beautiful Ganga, who was the river goddess in disguise. So she came personified, the river came personified as Ganga. She agreed to marry him as long as he never questioned her actions. Over the years, they had 7 sons, but Ganga would throw each of the sons into the river. And Shantanu would be very distressed by this strange behavior. But he kept his promise. He never questioned her. So she did this 7 times. Finally, when their 8th son was born, Shantanu asked his wife who she really was and why was she doing this. So he questioned her actions. And as soon as he questioned her actions, she revealed herself and told him that her children were once celestial beings. They were known as the 8 Vasus, in fact, but were cursed to become humans. She had ended their punishment quickly by drowning them immediately at birth. So she was actually doing them a favor. But since Shantanu had questioned her actions, she left him, along with the last son, Devrath, who was named Devrath. So 7 sons were drowned in the Ganga. But the 8th, he was actually cursed to live a longer life. So she took this 8th son, who was called Devrath, to the heavens with her. So she left Santanu. And in heavens, this Devrat, he was guided or trained by great personalities like Parshuram, Vashisht Muni, Brahaspati. These are great sages. Devrat is better known by his later name of Bhishma. So he was later returned by Ganga Devi. He was returned back to Shantanu. So he received this name Bhishma, which actually means terrible vow, terrible resolve, after vowing never to marry or have children. So he made this vow, which is very unusual for a Kshatriya, for a warrior. Warriors generally do not make such vows of not marrying. Anyway, his father, why did he make that vow? Well, his father wanted to marry again. Somebody called Satyavati. But the father of Satyavati had made conditions that the second wife would be the mother of the king someday. So that was quite a heavy condition. And of course, the first, the eldest son is Devrat, Devrat. So naturally, his son would be the king. But the king made a condition. The father of Satyavati made a condition that only my daughter's child should be the king. That really made Shantanu very sad, because he couldn't do that to Devrat. He could not do that because Devrat was naturally the next king anyway. However, honoring the father's wishes to marry, Bhishma made this vow that he guaranteed that he would never claim the throne, he would never marry, and he would always protect whoever was on the throne. And that was a terrible vow, and that's why he became known as Bhishma. Even the Devatas, when he made that vow, threw flowers upon him for making such a vow. So really amazing thing to do. It's amazing sacrifice to make for your father. Years later, one of Bhishma's half-brothers, Chitrangada, dies in battle, and the other, Vichitravirya, became old enough to marry. So he married. Now, when he became old enough to marry, on behalf of his half-brother, Vichitravirya, so Shantanu and Satyavati had two sons. Chitrangada, he died. Vichitravirya, he wanted to marry. On behalf of his half-brother, Bhishma abducted three sisters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. He kidnapped them in order to get them married to his half-brother. On returning home, he understood that one of the sisters, Amba, had already chosen a suitor. So Bhishma allowed her to leave. But her beloved one, I think that was Shalva, he didn't want her back because she'd been kidnapped. And all sorts of things happened. Amba then took a vow to be the cause of the death of Bhishma, and so many things happened. Anyway, that we won't go into that history. And he wouldn't marry Amba, even though he kidnapped Amba, because he wanted to make that vow. He wanted to honor his vow. And one day, actually, Amba then vows that one day she will kill him, even though his father Shantanu had granted Bhishma the power to choose the day of his death because of his vow. So Shantanu had granted him that wish. But Bhishma, you made this vow, so you can choose the time you die, which made him undefeatable, actually. The importance and power of vows are evident throughout the Mahabharata. When both his half-brothers died prematurely without children. So what happened was, not just Chitrangada died, but Vichitravirya also died without any children. Now, at that time, the mother of the stepmother, Satyavati, because Shantanu had died as well, came to Bhishma and said, "Now I don't mind. Take the throne. There's nobody else left." So Satyavati begged him, "Please, you should marry now. You should take the throne." Sorry, but Bhishma, he had made the vow that no, I will not take the throne. I will always protect the throne. So he would not relinquish his vow, nor would he um, marry or have children, because that was his vow. So Satyavati was in a dilemma, what to do. You know, these princesses must be given children. There must be a successor who will father those children. There was no other man in the family except Satyavati, except Bhishma. So Satyavati, the king's second wife, asked her firstborn son, Vyasdev. Now, Satyavati had a child before meeting King Shantanu. And this child was the father was Parasar Muni, and the son was the glorious Vyasdev. So, actually, literal incarnation of the Lord. So, she remained a virgin even though she had a child. So this is one of the inconceivable natures of these transactions that take place between these great souls. So Vyasdev was requested, "Please come. You are my son. I need you to impregnate the queens, Ambika and Ambalika." Vyasdev comes. He's an obedient son. Even though he was performing great tapasya in the forest, he came. But the princesses didn't like him because he was an ecstatic who had taken a vow of poverty, and he was really rough looking. But he explained to them that they each have to bear a child. So what happened? He went to Ambika first, but she closed her eyes. She closed her eyes. So Vyasdev said that the first son will be born blind because she closed her eyes when she was seeing him. And the second, she was very scared. She became completely white, pale skinned. So Vyasdev said that the second son will be pale skinned. So this is the first wife, Ambika, and Ambilika was the second. So the blind son, he was called Dharashtra, and the pale son, he was called Pandu. Now, Satyavati wasn't happy because of these issues. So she requested Vyasdev one more attempt. But the princesses, this time, they didn't go before Vyasdev. They sent their humble maidservant. Now, humble maidservant was very intelligent. She knew who this was. This was Vyasdev, very important sage. And because of that mood and attitude, the third son was the wise Vidur. Vidur appeared. So this is him blessing the maidservant. Now, since his brother Dhritarashtra, although older, was blind and thus considered unfit for the throne, Pandu became the new king of Hastinapur. The second child became the king. He was married to Kunti Devi and Madri. One day, however, while hunting in the forest, Pandu, he accidentally shot a gazelle who was in the act of mating. Actually, the gazelle was a Brahmin priest in disguise. And this gazelle, before dying, cursed Pandu that he will also die if he mates with any of his wives. He will die instantly. So this was a heavy curse, right? Now, knowing that he could never have children, Pandu resigned the throne and he went to live with his wives in the forest. At that time, Kunti informed Pandu that she had an incredible boon granted to her by Durvasa Muni, that she could invoke any devata by reciting a secret mantra, and the devata would have to give her a child. So she informed Pandu of this. But even she kept one secret, however. When Durvasa Muni had granted this wish to her, she was a little child. Durvasa Muni became very pleased with her. And he granted her this wish, he granted her this boon. And she couldn't believe it. So at that time, she actually invoked the sun god to come. And he came. And she was shocked. And he said, I have to give you a child. And she said, I have not married. You can't give me a child. And Suryadev said, well, you've invoked me. I have no choice. But I will protect your virginity. He gave her the child later called Kern. And that child secretly was placed in the Ganga and abandoned by Kunti Devi. Later on, we know in the Mahabharata, Kern becomes a very important figure. But anyway, she tested that mantra and it worked, unfortunately. Anyway, now, knowing this, Pandu requested her, call upon Dharamraj. And she did. Dharamraj came, gave her Yudhishthir, the firstborn, who was full of truthfulness and virtuous. He was the son of Dharamraj. Then she called upon wind god, Vayu, and beam came, this very strong beam. And then she called upon Indra. And from Indra, she got Arjun, a very powerful warrior. So there were the three incarnations of the avatars who came from Kunti. Kunti was very kind-hearted. She also wanted Madri to have children. So she allowed Madri to use the power of the mantra. And she had twins, Nakul and Sahdev, from the Ashwini twins. So thanks to his two wives, Pandu had now 5 sons directly descended from the gods. They were called the Pandavas. And they're the heroes of the Mahabharata. Years later, Pandu one day surrenders to his passion for Madri and he falls dead, fulfilling the curse. And Madri was very devoted to him. She joined him on the funeral pyre. And Kunti was left alone to look after the 5 children. Meanwhile, Dhritarashtra had become the king, temporarily. It was a caretaker role because of his blindness. But once you acquire some power, it's very hard to give it up. So he had other plans. He wed Gandhari in an arranged marriage. And Gandhari was such an amazing person that when she heard that her husband, future husband, is going to be blind, she also covered her eyes voluntarily. She never removed the blindfold. She joined him in his world of darkness. She also became pregnant, but her pregnancy lasted 2 years. And she ended up giving birth to a ball of flesh. She was advised that you should cut this ball up into 100 pieces and put them in a jar of ghee. Vyasadeva advised like that. And in due course of time, she became the mother of 100 sons who are known as the Kauravas, the eldest of whom is called Duryodhan. When he was born, actually, there was very sinister omens of violence that greeted his arrival into the world. Jackals howled, there were strong winds blowing, fires raged throughout the city. So it was quite a inauspicious appearance. So just to give an idea of, because we talked a lot about different families coming, children coming. So just to give a little summary, Shantanu and Ganga married, and Bhishma came from them, and then Shantanu and Satyavati married, and that gave rise to Vichitravirya. Chitrangad died early. Vichitravirya married, but had no children, married Ambika and Ambalika. But he didn't give any children. But from Vyasdev came Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and also Vidur. Now, Dhritarashtra married Gandhari, and they gave rise to the 100 Kauravas headed by Duryodhana. Also, there was a daughter, Dushala. And Pandu married Kunti and Madri, who gave rise to the 5 sons, the Pandavas. Now, Dhritarashtra was a little worried when Duryodhana was born, and Vidur advised him. He told him that your first son is going to bring hatred and destruction into the world. He will one day destroy our race. Vidur urged the king to get rid of the child. Of course, Dhritarashtra ignored his advice. He was a weak king. He allowed physical blindness to become a refusal to face reality and unwillingness to confront hard decisions. And being easily led by Duryodhana in later years, he continually blames fate, excusing his own inaction. So Dhritarashtra was very weak, and he was subjected to many decisions which were actually taken by Duryodhana and his uncle Shakuni, who was the sister of Gandhari. The Pandavas and the Kauravas fought constantly with Duryodhana, even trying to kill his fierce rival Bhima. So one time they tried to drown Bhima. They poisoned him with some kheer, and they tried to drown him. But no matter what they did, Bhima got stronger. He always survived the attempts on his life, and he became stronger as a result. One day, a teacher and master of arms, Drona, his name is Dronacharya, he appears and he offers his services to train the boys. But he actually had a secret mission. He had been insulted a long time before by his friend, a former friend, Draupad. So he wanted to train an army to defeat Draupad. Because when they were young one time, Dronacharya was very close to Draupad. But years later, Dronacharya, he was very poor. He went to see his childhood companion, who was now a great king, Draupad. But Draupad insulted him. How can we be friends? Look at you and look at me. I'm a king and you're a beggar. So Dronacharya was very hurt by this behavior of Draupad. So as payment for the training that he gave, Dronacharya gave to the Pandavas, to the Kauravas, he wanted them to avenge, take a revenge against Draupad. Being great, mighty warriors, they conquered. Pandavas actually conquered the Draupad's kingdom, and they handed it over to Dronacharya. So this is, the Kauravas also tried, but they didn't succeed. But the 5 boys, 5 children, they actually defeated Draupad and his army. And they handed that kingdom over to Dronacharya. Dronacharya promptly gave his former friend half the kingdom back, saying, now we are equals. So of course, that created a great anger within Draupad, who then performed a yajna for revenge. He wanted children to come out of that yajna to revenge him against Dronacharya. So from this yagya, from the flames, there were Drustadumnia was born. Drustadumnia. And he is destined to kill Dronacharya. And also a daughter was born at the same time. Her name is Draupadi. And it was foretold that she will bring destruction on an unrighteous ruler, which is what happens which will happen. Draupadi also had a third child called Sikandi, and that is Amba reborn. If you recall, we had Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. Amba was rejected by Bhishma, and she then prayed for revenge against Bhishma. So she was reborn as Shikandi, actually a male, but also can be a female, who had vowed to cause the death of Bhishma. Later in the war, Drona and Bhishma, they will fight on the side of the Kauravas. So although Kauravas were definitely on the unrighteous side, Dronacharya and Bhishma somehow got entangled and fought for the unrighteous, for the sinful, due to their loyalty to the king. But also their mortal enemies, just the Dumna and Sikandi, they will fight with the Pandavas. So this is quite an interesting twist in fate. Dronacharya, he recognized Arjun's superiority as the master of arms, and especially the bow, and he favored him with special training. So when Dronacharya was teaching those boys, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, he had a favorite. It was Arjun. In a context of skills, he tells each of the Pandavas to strike a target, the eye of a wooden bird in the tree. He asks each one in turn. So what happened was people were a little jealous, especially his son, Ashwatthama, Dronacharya's son, that why are you favoring Arjun? So then Dronacharya set up a test. The test was that there's a bird on the tree. Tell me what you see. One by one, they tested the princes. They would respond, I see my teacher, I see my brothers, I see the tree, I see the bird. Dronacharya tells them that will not help you hit the mark. And then he asks Arjun, what do you see? Arjun says he only sees the bird. He doesn't see anything else. In fact, he only sees the eye of the bird. This was the test that Dronacharya had set, and Arjun passed it because he only saw the target. Thus, he was focused on the target alone, and he strikes with total accuracy. Dronacharya awards Arjun by giving him a supreme weapon, the Brahmastra, very powerful weapon. Now, this is a good example for us as well. We can sometimes be diverted by so many different things going on in our lives, but actually, we should be very careful and know that what our goal is and be very focused in our lives. Later, there was a tournament where the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they were all invited to show off their skills. At that time, a stranger appeared who challenged Arjun, and he actually equals him in archery. That person was Karn. Now, Karn, he had been abandoned by Kunti in the river. He actually came to Hastinapur as a little child, floated, and he was rescued by the king's charioteer at that time. I can't remember his name now. And he was adopted by the charioteer. So he was, at that time, became known as Karn. He was Kunti's first son. Nobody knew that when he came to the tournament, and he was then when he started showing his skills. So this is Karn being abandoned by his mother. And then Kern was found, and he had this incredible armor, natural armor on his body, which is actually the armor of Surya Dev. He was of course, the elder brother of the Pandavas, but nobody knew that. Kern didn't know that. Nobody knew that. So the Pandavas, actually, they mocked his lowly social status because he was seen as the son of a chariot driver, and they wouldn't fight with him. At that time, Duryodhan, he saw the power of Kern, and he wanted to make a friend. So he offered him a small kingdom to make him king, a Kshatriya. And at that time, Kern, he swears eternal friendship to the Kauravas, to Duryodhan. And that was his downfall, because he decided to take the side of irreligion. And he never swayed from, even though he knew Duryodhan was doing so many crazy things, he would never abandon his friendship with Duryodhan. And this is where Duryodhan makes him Angaraj, king of Ang, which is, I think, now known as Afghanistan. Anyway, Kern's lowly status, social status, will haunt him throughout the Mahabharata. Later, at a contest to win Draupadi as a bride, because he wanted to win her as a bride, but she rejects him outright because he's from a servant family. That really hurt Kern. For a person who desired to be measured by his accomplishments, living under this shadow was unbearable. As a child of the sun, Kern was born with golden armor over his skin. Later, the god Indra, the Devata Indra, he tricks Kern into giving this divine protection away. After Kern was born, Kunti remained a virgin. That was a boon that was given by the sun god. Pandavas the Pandavas were always harassed by the Kauravas. They narrowly escaped a plot by Duryodhan to burn them in a house made of highly flammable material. House of Luck, it was called. It was just made of wood and ghee. They put it on fire, but somehow the Pandavas escaped. And they remained hidden. They escaped, but they hid in the forest. And one time, Bhim was keeping a watch, guarding everybody while they were sleeping. And then at that time, a Rakshas appeared, who was called Hidimbi. And this Rakshas wanted to eat Bhim. So Bhim fought with him. Actually, sorry, Hidimbi. Ah, that's right, sorry. This Hidimbi actually was a man-eating Rakshasi, a lady Rakshasi. But she took the form of a beautiful woman. And she actually falls in love with Bhim. And then Bhim kills her brother because the brother wanted to eat his brothers. And Bhim and the Rakshasi, they became married. And they got a son called Gatokchak. Gatokchak. So he was
Gatochar.
That's right. He actually, although was a demon, Rakshas, but he was very favorable to the Pandavas. And later in the war, he actually helped them win the war. But he was a son of Bhim. The Pandavas are disguised as Brahmins. They attended the Swayamvar of Draupadi, a ceremony where she would pick her husband from a number of suitors. And they had a task. They had to win Draupadi through a competition, which was to hit the eye of a fish by looking at the shadow or the the mirror image on the floor. And many tried. They all failed, except Arjun. But he was disguised. He was disguised as a Brahmin. But he won the hand of Draupadi. Krishna and Balaram were actually present at the Swayamvar of this Draupadi. So this is the first time Krishna and Balaram and the Pandavas come face to face. Now, Krishna, of course, easily recognizes the Pandavas. He recognized the 5 Pandavas, even though they were disguised. He knew that these, although it's the first time he's seen them, of course, he's God. So nothing's unusual for him. And this is a little idea of who is Krishna. According to the Bhagavad Gita, according to the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, and according to the Brahma Samhita, 3 very important scriptures, it is described that Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Avatari, from whom all the other avatars come. There's one God who has many forms and he has many names. So this one God, from him, from Krishna, expands Balaram. So Krishna and Balaram come together on earth 5,000 years ago. Balaram actually comes as the elder brother, but actually he's an incarnation, he's an avatar of Krishna. And then we will talk about the remainder later on, not today, another time. But this is something, sometimes people say Vishnu is the original and Krishna comes from Vishnu. We don't argue because it's one and the same person. But actually the scriptures explain that Krishna is the original Supreme Lord from whom even Vishnu comes. And later on here we'll see there's 3 types of Vishnus. There's Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu. There's 3 Vishnus. Anyway, we won't go into too much detail about that at this moment. So Arjun wins Draupadi in the competition. He announces to his mother that he has won a prize, and Kunti Devi, she always advises them, share the prize amongst all the brothers. But she advised the same again before seeing Draupadi, and there was a shock to everybody. How can we share one woman? Now the mother's words can't become untrue because like an irrevocable vow, her statement, even by mistake, cannot be undone. So all the 5 Pandavas married Draupadi, the the daughter of Draupadi. Now this was very unusual, right? How can one woman have 5 husbands? Unheard of at that time. Anyway, Krishna found them and explained that this unusual marriage actually fulfills karma. It's because of karma. In her previous life, Draupadi had prayed to Shiva for a husband 5 times. And so she received 5 husbands as a reward of her devotion in that life. There was an immediate rapport between the Pandavas and Krishna, and they accepted him as their guide and their lord. Krishna indicated the tension with the Kauravas was not just a family rivalry, but a conflict with universal consequences. It's not just a family war. This is bigger than you think. On Krishna's advice, the Pandavas presented themselves to the blind king to make peace. Dhritarashtra was finally persuaded by Vidur and Bhishma to offer them half the kingdom. But Dhritarashtra, he gave them a region called Khandaprast, which was nothing but jungle and desert. But Yudhishthira was so kind-hearted, he accepted this in order to avert the war. So meanwhile, Arjun and Krishna agreed, assisted a hungry Brahmin who reveals to them that Agni, he himself is Agni, and he actually consumed this forest, this Khandaprast. He made it flat for them. And in due course of time, I won't go into too much detail, they created Indraprasth in this place which was gifted to them by Dhritarashtra. And this Indraprasth was turned from a poor land into a very wealthy kingdom. And in due course of time, Yudhishthira was made the king of kings. This made Duryodhana very jealous indeed. And one time, Duryodhana visited this palace. In fact, at the time of inauguration of the king, of Yudhishthira as becoming the king. And Duryodhana became so envious because he fell actually into a pool of water and everybody laughed at him in this kingdom. And at that time, Duryodhana really became so angry. They invited Yudhishthira, or Shakuni, the uncle of Yudhishthira, of Duryodhana, made a plan. Let's have a gambling match. You invite Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira cannot refuse a gambling match. He's a Kshatriya. He has to accept. Any challenge he has to accept, which he does. And they made the Pandavas play, gamble, basically, gamble. And although so many people advised Yudhishthira not to play in this match, he still did, because a Kshatriya cannot shy away from a challenge. And even Yudhishthira knew that Shakuni was cheating them. He still played. He still gambled. And eventually he lost everything, the kingdom, the wealth, even his brothers. Eventually he even wagered his own wife and lost her. Now, Draupadi, when she found out, she challenged this with a question. How can somebody who has lost himself, because Yudhishthira had wagered himself, how can he wager somebody else in the game? And nobody would answer her. Nobody could answer her. Even Bhishma, he could not say anything because he was under his vow that I will always protect the throne. So they insulted Draupadi. And this is the beginning of the end of the Kauravas. Even Kern, who was actually quite a righteous person, because of the association with Duryodhana, he destroyed him and he became unrighteous. And at that time, a miracle happened. They called Draupadi into the arena and they started to strip her of her clothes, Dushashan. And at that time, she surrendered unto Krishna. And Krishna provided unlimited saris, unlimited sari. No matter how much they tried to take the saris off, there was more sari coming. And this was a miracle that was performed in front of everybody's eyes. And Draupadi became very angry. She wanted to curse everybody in that kingdom, and she did. She did. She cursed that one day this insolence, this insulting behavior will be avenged. There were so many curses that took place that time. So many curses. It shows the vice of gambling. It's not a good idea. Anyway, eventually Dhritarashtra came to his senses. He apologized, gave back the kingdom to the brothers, their wealth. And unfortunately, they had another game because Yudhishthira was again challenged. And this time, they lost again due to the cheating of Shakuni, and they were sent to the forest for 12 years. And on the 13th year, they had to live incognito. If they were found in the 13th year, they would have to spend another 12 years in the forest. So they spent another 12 years in the forest. And this time, they gathered. I'll just run through it a little quicker because we're running out of time. They gathered many friends. They went to the heavens. They got celestial weapons. Arjun went to Indralok and spent many years with his father, Indra, learning the art of weaponry and fighting demons. At the same time, Karn also, he learned the art of warfare from Parshuram. But Parshuram, he had vowed never to teach Kshatriyas. And Karn didn't tell him that he was actually a Kshatriya. So Karn was cursed by Parshuram that when you need this, because Parshuram found out that actually Karn is a Kshatriya, when you need it the most, it will fail you. And unfortunately, later on, that's exactly what happened. So one time in the forest, Duryodhan was, staying near the Pandavas, taunting them, and he got kidnapped by some Gandharvas, some heavenly personalities. And at that time, Bhim and Arjun saved Duryodhan. And Duryodhan was really distraught, so distraught. He wanted to commit suicide. But anyway, at some point, the father, the uncle persuaded Duryodhana, no, let's carry on. We will defeat these people, these Pandavas. The 13th year, the Pandavas hid in a kingdom of King Virat. And there, eventually, they disguised themselves in different ways. They were not found. Eventually, the Kauravas realized that the Pandavas, although they were looking for them everywhere, they couldn't find them. They realized that they were hiding in Virat's kingdom. They went there to find the Pandavas, to check, to find them before the 13th year was over. At that time, unfortunately, for the Kauravas, they couldn't find them in time. And the 13 years were completed. At that time, Duryodhan was requested, give half of the kingdom back, give the kingdom back to the Pandavas, because that was the agreement. But he refused. Even Krishna went to them as a peace messenger. And Krishna even offered, give them 5 villages. Let's give them 5 villages, if nothing else. But at that time, Duryodhana said, I wouldn't even give them enough land that would be on a needle, let alone 5 villages, let alone their kingdom. So in this way, Duryodhana was very obstinate. He refused any deals at all. And in fact, he even tried to capture Krishna. Actually, we have this somewhere. He tried to capture Krishna, bind him. There's Duryodhana. He wants Krishna to be bound. He orders the guards. At that time, Krishna reveals his universal form. And Duryodhana can't see it because Krishna doesn't allow him to see that form, but others did. Even Dhritarashtra, even though he was blind, he was given the vision of this universal form. Try to bring him to his senses. So in that way, every attempt that was made in order to avert a war was failed. Did not work. So at one point, both Arjun and Duryodhana went to see Krishna. They wanted, because Krishna had said that I will not fight in this war, but my soldiers will. Whose side they will take? That's to be seen. So one time, Duryodhan and Arjun went to see Krishna with a plea. Krishna was asleep, and Duryodhan was situated at the face of Krishna. But when Krishna woke up, he saw Arjun, who was situated at the feet of Krishna. So he asked Arjun, "What do you want? What would you like?" And Duryodhan protested, "No, I was here first." But Krishna said, "I saw Arjun first." So he has the first choice. Arjun said, "Okay, I don't want your army. I want you on my side." But Krishna said, "I won't fight." "That's okay," Arjun said. "I still only want you." And Duryodhan, he was happy. Great, because I was going to ask for the army of Krishna anyway. So this shows the love and devotion that Arjun had for Krishna, as opposed to the greed and attitude of Duryodhan. So all attempts were made in order to avert war. Nothing succeeded. So eventually, it came to a situation where they made preparations for the war in a holy place called Kurukshetra. The Kauravas had 11 divisions, 2.4 million warriors to stand against 7 divisions, 1.5 million warriors of the Pandavas. The two armies are described as two oceans crashing against each other. And the leader of the Kauravas was Bhishma, the great grandsire. Even before the war started, Krishna revealed himself. He went to Karna and revealed to Karna who he really was. He was the son of Pandu. He was one of the Pandavas. And he was the eldest. And if he went to the other side, he went to the side of Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira would welcome him with open arms. But Karna said, "No, I cannot abandon Duryodhan. He's done so much for me, I cannot give him up." So this is one of the things that we understand from Mahabharata, that if we have bad company, Karna had the company of Duryodhan just for a moment. He gave him the kingdom of Ang. It became Angaraj. Karna was completely lost due to that bad association, even though it was for just one moment. So we have to be careful who we have as our friends, who we keep company with, because they can completely divert us from where we need to be. Anyway, this is now setting the scene for the war. And that's where we stop today. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? You can just raise your hands and ask if you have any questions.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, no problem.
It was really nice, this all of the Mahabharata, what you read to us. Really enjoyed. Only one question. No, I think I did put down 2 questions. One was, did Karan knew that he was the son of Kunti?
Not until it was revealed to him by Krishna. Krishna revealed that to him just before the war.
Right.
And he said, "I will introduce you as the son of Pandu, and you can take the kingdom." But actually, Karna knew if he received the kingdom, he would have given it to Duryodhan. And Duryodhan he knew also Duryodhan was not a nice person. But he remained loyal to his friend Duryodhan.
Yeah, and even you said that when Duryodhan found that he was like good and everything is fine, so he made him a friend.
Mm.
And especially when they got a fight in Kurukshetra, he was always with Duryodhan all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
That's right.
and second,
Oh, Priyanjali, you have a question?
yeah, carry on.
Yes. Okay, we can come back to you, Praveen. Yes, Priyanjali.
So, who named Karn? Was it the lady who had the boon of ordering any demigods, or was it the those kings and queens?
Good question. Who named Kern? I think actually when they found him, he was named Radheya. Radheya. So when he was found in the river, the chariot driver and his wife, they found the boy, they looked after him, they called him Radheya. But it would have been Mother Kunti who probably would have named the boy Kern. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that he was known as Radheya by his adopted mother and father.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, my wife just saying the adopted mother's name was Radha. So he was known as Radheya, the son of Radha.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Very good. And it shows you were listening very carefully, huh, Priyanjali? Thank you.
I was reading very carefully.
Wow, you're an amazing child. Thank you so much.
And Prabhuji,
Yes, Madhubin.
What was name about Nakul and Sahadev's father?
Ashwini twins, the twins who are in charge of medicine.
Okay, Aswini twins. Okay.
Okay, so my wife's son, Radha, who nurtured him, Karn, as her own son, known as Adhirat, son of Adhirat. Actually, Indra gave him the title of Karn. So Indra gave him the title of Karn, Priyanjali. So this name Karn was awarded to him by his original father, who is Indra, the king of heaven.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yes, Madhuben. So
yeah, no, just I wanted to. I never ever heard that whose was father was Sahadev and Nakul. That's why I wanted.
It's the Ashwini twins. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Barbin, did you have any more questions? You're muted, huh?
I did write down, I can't find it, but what I'm asking is just carry on and I'll ask tomorrow.
I think I'm done. Unless anybody else has any questions, we can finish.
Okay,
this.
you can ask.
Yeah. So you're muted again, huh?
Yeah, you did say it about that Vyasdev got married.
No, he didn't get married. He fathered the children.
Yeah, when Vyasdev got married, like Satyavati had that son too. And
before marriage, Satyavati had a son with Parasar Muni. That's right.
Muni, yeah. And Parasmuni. And when these two, Ambika and Ambalika, they both got married with Vyasdev. But I didn't know this, so this is I'm asking because as soon as they saw Vyasdev, Ambika closed the eyes,
Yeah. And the
and
other
that's
one,
how
yeah, he was
the
blind.
Dhritarashtra was born blind.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
So-
and Ambika was all right. So
No, she
when
wasn't. She became pale, very pale,
yes,
scared. So Pandu also was born pale.
Pale, yeah. She was.
but when you said Pandu was got, sorry, they got he was born, but he was pale, but he was very fair. Is that what you say?
Yeah, he was white. He was pale.
All
Yeah.
right.
And unhealthy. Yeah, unhealthy.
Unhealthy, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
these are the things I didn't knew, but as today you was reading, I was writing it down too. So I said, it's good to know, very
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Prabhuji.
Ria has a question. Ria has a question.
Okay, carry on.
Is
Carry
Kern a good or a bad person? Because he was on the immoral side, but his own morals were good. Yes, he was a son of Suryadev, right? So Suryadev is a very important devata and a very strong devata. So Kern was very strong. So yes, he was a very good person. But what happened, because he had taken bad company, and the bad company was Duryodhan, who was a very immoral person, Kern also became immoral. So this is showing us an example of how we should keep very good company of very high standard people who can help us, as opposed to keeping company with people who will degrade us, who will perhaps take us on the wrong path. Sometimes, in school, I don't know how old you are, Ria, but if you're in school, and sometimes, you somebody keeps the company of people who are a little naughty, and they start also acting naughty because they have to compete with those people who are naughty to be in their group or in their team. So that person who's actually good also starts to behave in a naughty way, right? So if that happens, then even though a person is good, because he's in a group of people who are naughty, he becomes naughty as well. That's not really good. Now, Priyanjali, tomorrow we are going to start the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1. So we're going to start. We've laid the scene. The battle is about to start. And it's time for the pravachan by Sri Krishna to Arjuna. So tomorrow, for next 18 days, every day we are going to go through each chapter one by one by one by one by one. And I would recommend also that during the holidays, there was a series made about Mahabharata some 40 years ago, 30 years, by B.R. Chopra. It was aired in BBC, and you can find it on YouTube. Please get your children to watch it because it's very accurate. It's very good. There are other Mahabharats which are not so accurate, but this Mahabharata by Chopra is pretty good. It's pretty accurate. So Riya's asking, but didn't Kern recognize Duryodhana was bad? So why would he embody those morals? Yes, absolutely. He knew, because he himself, when Duryodhana wanted to set fire to the house of Lak, Kern protested. He said, no, why are you doing this? Let's just go and fight them. Why you want to burn them in their sleep? We are Kshatriya, we are warriors. Let's go and beat them. So that time Duryodhana said, well, I give up my friendship with you. You can Go away now. I don't need your friendship. But because Karn had committed himself to Duryodhana, he submitted to Duryodhana. So this is the point. Even though Karn knew it was wrong, he was almost like forced to stay on the side of Duryodhana. And this is what happens. Draupad is the father of Draupadi. Draupadi is a king, Prabhaben, who insulted Dronacharya. When they were children, they were in the same school. Drona was a Brahmin, and Draupad was a Kshatriya. His father was a king. And they made a pact. We're always together. What is mine is yours. Half of mine is yours. So Dronacharya's half would be Draupad's, and Draupad's half would be Dronacharya. So Dronacharya was very poor. He had a son called Ashwatthama. They couldn't even give him milk. They were so poor. So at that time, Draupad went to Dronacharya went to Draupad, to the kingdom, because Draupad was a king. And he reminded him, we were childhood friends, and we made a pact that whatever's yours is half mine. And Draupad said, I don't remember you. Who are you? You know, he saw Dronacharya in torn clothes, dhoti, and he said, who are you? I can't be your friend. Look at you. You're a lowlife. I'm a king. Go away. They threw him out of the palace.
All right. Thank you very much. But I'm still not happy with it.
Go for it. Ask.
So where the Draupad came from? Who was
He
his
was a king.
father or son? Or he
Yeah,
was just a
he's a
normal
big history.
king?
Big history behind him.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
he's
Thanks.
yes, that's right. There was a state
Gandhar is
called
brother.
Panchal.
Yeah.
Panchal. He was the
Panchal.
father. He was the son of the king of Panchal, and then he became the king of Panchal.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the way you are telling, I should watch that YouTube
Yeah,
things again.
it's worth watching. Yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah, I will. I'll try.
He
Hare
was a
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Draupadi brothers. Yeah, he is Draupadi's brother, is he?
Draupad was the father.
Oh, father. Sorry, yeah, father. Yeah, Drupad. Yeah,
Yeah,
Drupad king. Yeah,
Dumna is the brother.
yeah, yeah.
And Shikandi. Good.
Prabhu, sorry,
Yes, Chamalini.
yeah, Abba, what happened? Bhishma refused her, rejected her. That I didn't quite get that.
Yes, and then she vowed to be the cause of his death.
So why he rejected? He already made the vow not to get married.
Yes, and because Amba had given her heart to another king, so Vichitravirya didn't want to marry her. So they sent her to the other king. The other king said, no, you're a reject. I can't accept you. So she was in no man's land. She went back to Hastinapur and said, Bhishma, you have to marry me. You kidnap me. You marry me. And Bhishma said, how can I marry you? I'm a brahmachari now, lifelong. So she cursed him. I'm going to be the cause of your death. So then she went to Parshuram and she said to Parshuram, your disciple has done this injustice to me. What are you going to do about it? So Parshuram challenged Bhishma to a fight, that you have done this injustice to Amba. And Parshuram, who is an incarnation of God, fought with Bhishma. And Bhishma even defeated him.
Wow.
He was so powerful. And then Amba, when she died, she did tapasya to Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
And that tapasya was very severe because she saw even Parshuram failed. So Shiva granted her a wish that you will in your next life be born as Shikandi. And as Shikandi, you will be the cause of the death of Bhishma. So when Bhishma was fighting with Arjun, Shikandi appeared in front of Arjun. And
Yeah.
Bhishma laid down his weapons. He said, I cannot fight because there is a woman. She was considered Shikandi as a woman because he was with Amba in his previous life.
All right.
And he wouldn't fight. He dropped his weapon and Arjun killed him.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Anything else? Thank you. I hope that was okay. We rushed through it a little bit. There's a lot of detail which I didn't go into. It's some of it is in the slides, so I will share the slides. You can go through those slides, but there's a little bit too much detail there. So, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Leave it at that. And we shall take it up tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Well, 3:30 we'll do bhajans and prayers to Lord Nrsingadev for his protection. And then we will start at 4 o'clock until probably 5 o'clock. So thank you so much, everybody. I'll stop the recording now. So where are you?